Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and I'm going to be doing a branded Despia deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this one for you guys because this deck is an extremely powerful deck to play this format because it went completely untouched on the last list, which is absolutely crazy. I'm super excited to show you guys this extremely spicy list. So without further ado, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. Like getting your name description in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Aluber. Aluber is an amazing 3-of in the build that has an awesome ability that if it's normal or special summon, you get to add a branded spell or trap from your deck to your hand, essentially instantly getting you branded fusion, which is a really cool ability. We then play 3 copies of Fallen of Albaz. Fallen of Albaz is definitely a 3-of combo piece in the build. It has a really cool ability that basically it's a walking super polymerization, which is an amazing effect, but you want to play 3 copies of this card because it's an awesome combo piece that we need to go in for all of our different fusion plays. We then play 3 copies of Albion the Shrouded Dragon. This card is an amazing 3-of in the build that's basically like an upstart goblin for the deck, that this card's name becomes Fallen of Albaz while in the field or in the graveyard, and if this card's in your hand or your grave, you can send a Fallen of Albaz or a branded spell or trap from your hand or deck to the graveyard, then apply the following effect based on where it was sent from. If it was in your hand, you get to special summon this card, but if it was in the deck, you get to place this card on the bottom of the deck. Then, if you place this card from your hand, you get to draw a card, which is a great ability to instantly draw a card with this card's ability. We then play 3 copies of Blazing Cartesia. Blazing Cartesia is really good as a 3-of because this card is basically walking polymerization. With the ability to control a Fallen of Albaz or it's in your graveyard, you actually get to special summon this card from your hand, which is a great ability to instantly get this card out on your side of the field. It also has the ability that during the main phase, quick effect, you get to fusion summon a level 8 or higher fusion monster from your X deck, which is a really cool ability. Also, if this card is in the graveyard and a fusion monster was sent to the graveyard this turn, you get to add this card back from the graveyard to your hand during your end phase, which is a great ability to instantly get this card back so you can use it over and over again as a walking polymerization. We then play a single copy of Guiding Quim. Guiding Quim is just really good as a 1-of in the build, and I love this card in the deck, but I feel like you just need a single copy. If this card is normal or special summon, you can actually send a Fallen of Albaz or a card that mentions it from your deck to the graveyard. And if a card leaves the X deck, except during the damage step, you can target a Fallen of Albaz or a monster that mentions it in the grave and special summon it back to your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Ad Libitum. This card is basically Monster Reborn for the deck, that if it's used as a fusion material and it's banished or sent to the graveyard, you can actually bring back one of your Despia monsters or a level 8 or higher fusion monster that's banished or in your graveyard back to your side of the field, which is a great effect. We can play a single copy of Despia and Tragedy. This card is a great searcher for the deck because it has the ability, if this card is sent to the graveyard or it's banished by a card effect, you can add a Despia monster from your deck to your hand, except for the copy of this card, essentially searching out your copy of Aluber, which is a really cool ability. You can also banish this card from the graveyard and then target a branded spell or trap in your graveyard and set it back to your side of the field, which is a great ability to instantly get your copy of Branded Fusion back on your side of the field or set a copy of Branded in red to your side of the field. We then play a single copy of Spriggan's Kit. Spriggan's Kit is great as a 1-of, but you only need a single copy of Spriggan's Kit. That if you have a fusion monster that mentions Fallen of Albaz as a material on the field or in the grave, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if it's normal or special summon, you can add to your hand one of your branded spells or traps that's banished or in your deck or graveyard, and then place a card from your hand on the bottom of the deck, which is a really cool ability to instantly recover one of your cards or search out a card, which is really amazing. We then play a single copy of Mercurier. Mercurier is really good as a hand trap, and it's really good if this card does get banished because it gives you a search, which is absolutely insane. We then play a single copy of the Bestial Lubellion. You only need a single copy of this card in the build, but it's really good to help you get to your copy of Branded Lost, and it has the ability, if this card's in your hand or grave, you can choose a level 6 or higher Dark Dragon monster to special summon this card. You can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to add a Bestial monster from your deck to your hand, which is great to search out your copy of Magnamut or Saunier directly from your deck to your hand. And it also has the ability when it's on your side of the field during the main phase, you can place a branded continuous spell or trap from your deck face up on the field, getting your copy of Branded Lost, which is insane. And then play a single copy of Magnamut, and all of your Bestial monsters that are level 6 share a common awesome effect that you can actually target a light or dark monster in either player's graveyard and banish it, and if you do, special summon this card from your hand, and it's a quick effect if your opponent controls a monster. But Magnamut's an amazing 1-up in the build because it actually searches a dragon during the end phase of the turn it was special summoned to your side of the field, and it lets you add a dragon from your deck or graveyard to your hand, which is a really cool effect. We then play a single copy of Sawnir. Sawnir is really good just as a 1-of in the deck. It has the ability, if it's sent to the graveyard, you can send a bestial monster or a branded spell or trap from your deck to the graveyard, which is a great effect because we have a lot of targets we can actually send to the graveyard that we want in the graveyard. So this card is really good as a 1-of in the build. We then play 2 copies of Edgem Chain. Edgem Chain is really good for the For package we play in the build. With the ability, if this card is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard, you get to add a For card from your deck to your hand, which is going to get you a For Patchwork, which then searches out another copy of Edgem Chain and a Polymerization from your deck to your hand, which is going to help you go for more fusion plays and get a +1. We then play a single copy of Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. It's insane that they did not hit Sanctifier Dragon, and it's really cool to be able to still be able to play this card for now, but eventually they will hit Sanctifier Dragon, so this card is really insane to be able to play in the deck to Gimmick Puppet lock your opponent, and it's just insane that you can still pull off this combo in this deck. We then play a single copy of the Ultimate Wizard in terms of attack and defense, and that's going to be a single copy of the Dark Magician. The Dark Magician is really good to be able to play, so we can go in for Red Eyes Dark Dragoon to establish a negate, so when we do Gimmick Puppet lock our opponent, we do have a negate to be able to stop something from our opponent attempting to stop the Gimmick Puppet lock, so it's really good to be able to play Dragoon in the deck, which is why we play a single copy of the Dark Magician. So, that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get in to the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with a single copy of Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is really good as a 1-of in the deck to get the exact card you need in the graveyard, like a copy of Despian Tragedy. And then play a single copy of Gold Sarcophagus. Gold Sarcophagus works with a bunch of really cool cards in the deck, and it's just really good to be able to play this card in the build because it can get you searches, and it's just an overall fantastic card to be able to play in the build as a 1-of. And then play a single copy of Call by the Grave. Call by the Grave is really good to be able to play in the deck so that we can basically stop our opponent from hand trapping us while we're going in for all of our plays. Then play a single copy of Triple Tactics Talents. We're also playing Thrust in the deck, so you only need a single copy of this card because you can search it off your copy of Thrust. And this card is really good because it either lets you draw 2 cards, take control of an opponent's monster, or look at your opponent's hand and shovel a card from it back into the deck, which is amazing to be able to do, especially if your opponent hand traps you. It's just insane to be able to play this card in the deck. We then play a single copy of Brandon and White. Brandon White is basically Miracle Fusion for the deck, which is why I play this card as a 1-of in the build. We then play a single copy of Brandon and High Spirits. Brandon and High Spirits is a really cool combo piece, which is why I play this card as a 1-of in the build. It's very easy to get to. You can actually recover itself from the graveyard, which is an amazing effect, but I feel like you just need a single copy of this card. We then play a single copy of Branded Lost. Branded Lost is insane. This card is a really good 1-of in the build, and it has a really cool ability, the activation of your cards and effects that include an effect that fusion summons a fusion monster cannot be negated. Also, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects when a monster is fusion summoned this way, and if you fusion summon a fusion monster, you can actually get to add a Fallen of Albaz or a monster that mentions it from your deck to your hand, which is a really cool effect to search out the exact card that you need. We then play 2 copies of Brandon and Red. Brandon and Red is really good as a 2-of in the deck. I have considered cutting this card down to 1 in this build to make it exactly 50, because this deck is currently 51 cards, but for now I'm playing 2 copies. You could bump this card down to 1, but I'm really liking it too because it makes it super easy to step into a copy of Guardian Chimera to pop 2 cards and draw a card, or basically draw 2 and pop a card, which is just really good to be able to use this card with, and overall love this card in the deck. We then play 2 copies of Polymerization. Polymerization just helps us go in for more fusion plays in the deck and works really well with Guardian Chimera, especially with our copy of For Patchwork. Patchwork is really good to be able to play in the deck as a 2-of, to be able to work with our copy of Edgem Chain and Polymerization because I can search both those cards from our deck to our hand, and it's amazing to be able to do that with these cards. We then play 3 copies of Triple Tactics Thrust. Thrust is insane to be able to play as a 3-of in the build, as it instantly gets you to Branded Fusion, which is the most powerful card in the entire deck, and you can search out basically cards like Foolish Barrel, Gold Sarcophagus, Thrust, or your copy of Talents off of Thrust, and even search out copies of For Patchwork, which is just insane to be able to do. This card is definitely a 3-of in the build. It's just an absolutely crazy powerful card in the deck. This card is just so powerful. We then play 3 copies of Fusion Deployment. Fusion Deployment is really good to be able to summon out your copy of your Blazing Cartesia or Fallen of Albaz in the deck, which is just really good to be able to reveal a monster that mentions it in the extract, and instantly summon out basically a Walking Polymerization or a Walking Super Polymerization to be able to get rid of your opponent's field, which is just really awesome to be able to do. We then play 3 copies of Branded Fusion. Branded Fusion is hands down the most powerful card in the entire deck, and what the entire deck is based around. This card is amazing to help you fusion summon out all sorts of awesome boss monsters like the Sanctifier Dragon, Mirror Jade, and a bunch of other cards we're playing in the extract, but this card is definitely a 3 of in the build, and it's one of my favorite cards ever printed. We then play 3 copies of Branded Opening. Branded Opening is just really good because you can discard a card and then take a Despia monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or special summon it in defense position to your side of the field, which is a really cool ability to be able to do because you can summon out a copy of, say, a Luber or even Quim, because Quim counts as a Dogmatica and a Despia monster. So it's really good to be able to just instantly get those cards out on your side of the field. This card also has a really cool ability that if a fusion monster you control would be destroyed by card effect, you can banish this card from the grave instead, giving you protection for your fusion monsters. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're just going to be playing 2, and that's going to be a single copy of Fusion Duplication and a single copy of Branded Retribution. Branded Retribution is a really cool card to be able to use their copy of Albion the Shrouded Dragon, and Fusion Duplication is just insane because it lets you target a fusion or a polymerization normal or quick play spell in either player's graveyard, banish that spell, and then apply the spell's effect when it would be activated, which is a really cool ability to basically just set this card to your side of the field and be able to use this card with Branded Fusion. It's a really good one of in the build and helps out a lot over on the deck. And the Branded Retribution just is a really awesome card to work with our copy of the Shrouded Dragon. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start off with 2 copies of Mirror Jade. Mirror Jade is our main boss monster that basically just spot removes cards off the field. It's one of those powerful cards in the entire game. It's a really cool boss monster and very easy to summon off your Branded Fusion using either Lubellion or Albion. We then play a single copy of Lubellion. Lubellion's really good because it basically shuffles the materials back to be able to fusion summon, which is a really cool ability. The only downside is you do have to discard a card to be able to use that ability, but it's totally fine because we have plenty of cards we want in the graveyard. You do have to use a Dark Monster plus Fallen of Albaz to make this card, so it's very easy to make in this build. We then play 2 copies of Albion. Albion's great as a 2 of in the deck. This card is Walking Miracle Fusion, and it also has a great ability. If this card's in the graveyard because it was sent there this turn, you can actually add to your hand or set a Branded spell or trap directly from your deck to your side of the field, essentially letting you set a copy of Branded Red to your side of the field so you can activate it during the opponent's turn, step into a Guardian Chimera, which is absolutely insane. We then play 2 copies of Dusk Dragon. Dusk Dragon is a definite 2 on the build. You want to play 2 copies in the deck because it's really important to be able to reveal one with your copy of Fusion deployment. So if you summon out one and you only play one, you basically lock yourself out of Fusion deployment with your copy of Blazing Cartesia, which is why I feel like 2 copies is the correct number. If this card is Fusion summon, you actually get to send a level 6 or higher letter Dark monster from your deck or extract to the graveyard, and if a monster is special summoned from your opponent's activated monster effect, you actually get to banish this card from your field or grave to special summon a Dogmatica monster from your deck or a Despia monster from your extract to your side of the field, which is a really cool effect. We then play a single copy of Albion, the Sanctifier Dragon. It's insane that we still have this card. I totally thought this card was actually going to get hit on the list, so we couldn't Gimmick Puppet lock our opponent, but you play this card so you can Gimmick Puppet lock your opponent, which is a really insane thing to be able to do. We then play a single copy of Titaniclad. Titaniclad is just a really good option to be able to make in the deck, and overall gets massive in this build. It's a really cool card to be able to play, and it has a really cool ability. If this card was sent to the graveyard this turn, you can actually add to your hand or special summon a Fallen of Albaz or a Dogmatica monster from your deck, which is a really cool effect. We can play a single copy of Ridbrom. Ridbrom is a Walking Negate, which is really cool. It can actually summon back your copy of Fallen of Albaz, which is an insane ability. We then play a single copy of Masquerade, which is actually one of my favorite fusions in the entire game, because every time your opponent breathes, they're going to take 600 points of damage, which is a really cool ability. And you can also special summon itself back from the grave, because if your opponent controls a Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, Exi, or Link monster, all this card's in the graveyard, a quick effect, you can special summon this card, but banish when it leaves the field. And while you control this Fusion summoned card, your opponent must pay 600 life points to activate any cards or effects. Your opponent's really going to have to think about it when this card is out on the field, because they can take a lot of damage very quickly from this card. You can play a single copy of Quiet Ritus. Quiet Ritus is really good because it reduces monsters' attack points down, making it super easy to go in for game. Play a single copy of Guardian Chimera. Guardian Chimera is really good because you either get to draw 2 and pop a card, or pop 2 and draw a card, and if you have Polymerization in the graveyard, your opponent can target this card with card effects, which is an insane ability. You can play a single copy of Dracos Tapalia because it is a walking negate, and it's very easy to summon out to her side of the field. It just requires a fusion plus a dark monster, which is very easy to do. And then finally, I play a single copy of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Dragoon is a walking negate for the deck and really good to be able to summon out in this build, especially since we're trying to Gimmick Puppet lock our opponent. This card is just really good overall in the deck, because it makes it so it cannot be destroyed by battle or cannot be destroyed by card effects, and also neither player can target this card, which is insane. And also it can just basically negate cards by discarding a card, and it goes up by 1,000 when it does negate, which is a really cool ability to use this card. And I absolutely love Dragoon in this build because it's so easy to summon. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Branded Despia before, you should definitely give this deck a try. It's really insane how easy it is to basically just stop your opponent in their tracks with a copy of Gimmick Puppet, and it's super consistent. And this deck actually is a 51 card build, and it's just really fun to be able to play. So that's gonna do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification, become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.